Silence is often misunderstood. Many people see it as emptiness, as absence, as weakness, but in reality, silence can be a form of deep inner mastery. When we talk about a silent woman, we are not talking about someone who is scared to speak or someone who lacks confidence. We are talking about someone whose strength is so complete that she does not need to prove it. Someone whose wisdom is so mature that she no longer wastes her energy on noise. Someone whose self-control is so refined that her silence becomes her greatest language. A silent woman is not silent because she has no words. She is silent because she has learned the value of choosing the right words. She knows the weight of every sentence, the impact of every reaction, the consequence of every emotion. Where others speak without thinking, she thinks without speaking. And that is where her mastery lies. You see, in this world, it's easy to shout, easy to argue, easy to get angry, easy to react. Anyone can raise their voice. But raising your character, that is rare. A silent woman chooses to raise her character. She knows that when she controls her tongue, she controls her life. She knows that when she controls her emotions, she controls her destiny. Her silence is discipline. She doesn't participate in every argument because she knows her worth is not up for debate. She doesn't respond to every insult because she understands that reacting gives power away. She doesn't engage with every conflict because peace is more valuable to her than winning a temporary verbal battle. Her silence protects her. It guards her dignity, shields her energy, and keeps her aligned with her inner purpose. But make no mistake, she feels everything. She notices everything. She hears everything. She simply chooses to process it internally. Instead of exploding outward, she reflects inward. Instead of seeking approval, she seeks understanding. Instead of trying to prove her point, she allows time, truth, and patience to reveal it for her. This is not weakness. It is deep, intentional strength. A silent woman is strong in a way that is not loud but lasting. Her strength is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering herself. When life challenges her, she doesn't panic. She pauses. When someone hurts her, she doesn't immediately retaliate. She reflects. When circumstances become stressful, she doesn't collapse. She recalibrates. Her silence becomes her anchor. You may see her sitting quietly, but inside her is a world of resilience. She has taught herself to breathe through the storms, to listen before reacting, to understand before judging, to think before speaking. Most people speak to fill the silence, but she lets silence fill her with clarity, with wisdom, with perspective. She has learned that not every emotion deserves to be expressed, not every situation deserves a reaction, and not every person deserves access to her thoughts. Silence becomes her boundary. It separates what deserves her energy from what drains it. It filters out the unnecessary, the toxic, the temporary. When she stays silent, she is not hiding, she is choosing herself, choosing peace, choosing growth. In her silence, she learns. She learns about the intentions of people around her. She learns about the reality of her own feelings. She learns about the direction of her life. She listens to her heart, her intuition, her conscience, and her values. And because she listens deeply, she understands deeply. Because she understands deeply, she stays steady. Her silence is not a pause, it is a power that keeps her from being dragged into emotional chaos. a power that allows her to remain grounded when life becomes overwhelming, a power that helps her stand strong when others crumble under pressure. Some might mistake her silence for weakness, but that is their misunderstanding, not her problem. She does not explain herself to those who cannot understand her. She does not waste her breath proving her strength. She doesn't seek validation. Her silence itself is the proof of her maturity, her control, her emotional intelligence. And sometimes, her silence is not only strength, it is healing. She uses it to mend her heart, realign her spirit, and restore her inner balance. She lets silence wash over her like medicine. She lets it repair the parts of her that words cannot reach. A silent woman is not silent because she is empty. She is silent because she is full of wisdom, full of strength, full of self-awareness, full of grace. Her silence is not the absence of power, it is the presence of it. It is her shield, her sanctuary, and her superpower. And once you understand the depth of her silence, you will realize there is nothing more powerful. Choosing peace over arguments is not something everyone can do. It takes tremendous inner strength to stay calm when everything around you is trying to provoke you. A silent woman understands this better than anyone. She knows that in every argument, there are two kinds of people, those who want to win and those who want to understand. She chooses understanding, not because she cannot fight, but because she values her peace more than temporary satisfaction. When someone tries to drag her into unnecessary conflict, she doesn't feel the need to prove herself. She knows who she is, and she knows that her dignity doesn't depend on the volume of her voice. Arguments are loud, emotional, and often pointless. They drain energy, destroy relationships, and leave regrets. But peace nourishes the heart, clears the mind, and strengthens the soul. That is why she chooses it, even when it is harder. A silent woman has learned that most arguments are not about truth, they are about ego. Sometimes people argue not because they are right, but because they are scared to be wrong. They raise their voice to cover their insecurity. They shout to hide their fear. But she sees through it. She understands that responding to every accusation, every insult, every misunderstanding is like pouring fuel on a fire. The more she speaks, the bigger the flames become. So instead, she chooses silence, like rain that softly puts out the fire without destroying anything else in the process. She is not avoiding conflict out of fear. She is avoiding it out of wisdom. She knows that peace is not the absence of power, it is the presence of clarity. In moments of tension, she focuses on the bigger picture. She asks herself, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Is this worth disturbing my mental peace? And most of the time, the answer is no. Her silence is not surrender, it is strategy. While others rush to argue and prove their point, she observes quietly. She takes time to understand both sides. She listens, not just to the words, but to the emotions behind them. Listening helps her respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively. She knows that a moment of patience can prevent years of regret. And so, she practices that patience like a spiritual discipline. When someone criticizes her unfairly, she doesn't jump to defend herself. She knows that time has a way of revealing truth. The person who misunderstands her today may realize her value tomorrow. She doesn't force anyone to see her worth. She doesn't demand apologies. She doesn't chase explanations. She lets her actions speak. She lets her behavior reflect who she truly is. And eventually, her calm presence becomes her proof. People often misunderstand the power of restraint. They think silence means acceptance. They think peace means passiveness. But she knows the opposite is true. It is much easier to react than to remain composed. It is much easier to shout than to listen. It is much easier to attack than to walk away. Silence requires discipline. Peace requires emotional maturity. Walking away requires courage, and she has that courage. She chooses not to fight every battle because she values her inner harmony. She refuses to let someone's anger control her mood, someone's bitterness shape her behavior, or someone's insecurity disturb her stability. When the conversation turns toxic, she knows it's time to step back. She does not stay where her voice must become loud to be heard. She does not stay where her presence is not respected. She withdraws, not because she cannot handle conflict, but because she doesn't want to live in it. Peace is her priority. She protects it the way others protect their pride. She guards it like a treasure. And because she holds on to peace so dearly, her presence becomes soothing. People feel comfortable around her. They trust her. They confide in her. She becomes a calming force, a safe place, a gentle reminder that strength does not need noise. She understands that arguments are often just temporary storms. If she stays calm, the storm passes. If she reacts, the storm grows. So she allows the storm to pass on its own. She doesn't get swept away with it. She doesn't throw her emotions into it. She stands firm like a mountain, untouched by the chaos around her. Her peace is not just for others, it is for herself. It gives her clarity to make better decisions. It allows her to focus on what truly matters. It helps her maintain balance, both emotionally and mentally. It keeps her grounded in a world full of noise and conflict. A silent woman knows that peace is her power. She carries it everywhere she goes, into her relationships, her home, her workplace, her conversations. People might try to provoke her, test her, misunderstand her, but she remains centered because she knows that the moment she lets her peace go, she lets her power go, and she will never hand her power to someone who doesn't value it. Choosing peace over arguments is not a sign of weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It shows maturity, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. It shows that she is in control of herself, not controlled by others. It shows that she is guided by wisdom, not ego. And that is the beauty of a silent woman. She may not win every argument, but she wins something far greater: her peace, her dignity, and her freedom. Patience is often described as a virtue, but for a silent woman, patience becomes a form of extraordinary power. It is not something she practices only when life is calm and comfortable. It is something she carries with her even in the storms. Her patience is not a weakness or a lack of urgency. It is a sign of immense strength, emotional stability, and deep wisdom. When everyone else is rushing, reacting, and losing control, she remains composed, steady, and anchored. Her patience is her armor. A silent woman understands that life unfolds at its own pace. She does not demand quick results, quick answers, or quick solutions. Instead, she allows things to take their natural course. She knows that growth takes time, healing takes time, clarity takes time, and understanding takes time. She is willing to wait, not because she is helpless, but because she has faith in timing, she has faith in the process. She has faith that what is meant for her will arrive when she is truly ready for it. Her patience comes from experience. She has learned that forcing situations rarely works. The harder you push, the more resistance you face. But when you allow things to unfold naturally, they often turn out better than anything you could have forced into existence. She has learned to trust that what needs to happen will happen, and what needs to fall away will fall away. Patience becomes her guide through life's uncertainties. When others around her panic, she breathes. When situations become overwhelming, she steps back. When emotions begin to rise, she calms herself. She understands that reacting in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Decisions made in haste often create more problems than solutions. So she pauses. She lets her emotions settle before she chooses her next move. And because she does this, her choices are clearer, wiser, and more aligned with her long-term peace. A silent woman has learned that patience is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. She may feel hurt, frustrated, or disappointed, but she doesn't let those emotions control her actions. She gives herself time to process, time to heal, time to understand, time to grow. She does not rush her heart. She gives it space, and in that space, she finds strength. Her patience also comes from her deep understanding of human nature. She knows that people are not perfect. They make mistakes. They misunderstand. They hurt others unintentionally. They act out of their own wounds and insecurities. Instead of immediately responding with anger, she gives them space to reflect, correct, and learn. She knows that sometimes silence teaches more than words ever could. She knows that time reveals the intentions of others more clearly than confrontation ever will. She is patient with others because she has learned to be patient with herself. She understands her own flaws, her own healing journey, her own slow progress. She knows that she is evolving, and evolution cannot be rushed. Through self-compassion, she has learned compassion for others. Through understanding herself, she has learned to understand the world. A silent woman does not measure time by speed. She measures it by depth. She knows that fast things are often shallow, while slow things are often meaningful. She prefers depth over speed, quality over quantity, substance over noise. Her patience helps her build lasting relationships, make thoughtful decisions, and create a life that feels calm and purposeful. Patience also gives her resilience. When life doesn't go according to plan, she doesn't collapse. She adapts. She rewrites. She waits for the next opportunity. She knows that setbacks are temporary, not permanent. She knows that rejection often means redirection. She knows that delays are not denials. Her patience turns obstacles into lessons and challenges into stepping stones. People often wonder how she stays so calm, so composed, so grounded. They see her quiet nature and think she must have an easy life. But what they don't see is the inner work, the self-control, the introspection, the emotional discipline. They don't see the battles she chooses not to fight, the temptations she chooses not to react to, the disappointments she chooses to rise above. Her patience is not a gift she was born with. It is a strength she has cultivated through experience. She knows that everything, healing, forgiveness, love, success, takes time. and the ability to wait without losing hope, without losing focus, without losing herself. That is her superpower. Her patience becomes her peace. It becomes her identity. It becomes the way she moves through life with grace and wisdom. When the world tries to rush her, she doesn't follow its pace. She follows her own timing, her own intuition, her own quiet confidence. She trusts that what is meant for her will never pass her by. She trusts that even if she is silent now, her time will come. And when it comes, she will be ready. Not because she raced toward it, but because she waited for it with dignity and strength. A silent woman understands that patience is not about waiting for something to happen. It is about staying calm, steady, and focused during the waiting. It is about maintaining faith even when things are uncertain. It is about believing that everything will fall into place, even if she cannot see the full picture yet. Her patience is her inner strength, her quiet resilience, her enduring hope. It is the foundation of her silence and the reason she stands strong in a world full of noise. A silent woman observes more than she speaks, and this ability gives her a kind of wisdom that cannot be learned from books or borrowed from others. It comes from paying attention deeply, quietly, and without the need to constantly express what she knows or sees. While the world is busy talking, debating, arguing, and trying to prove their perspectives, she is busy watching, understanding, analyzing, and absorbing life with a calm mind. Her silence becomes her lens through which she sees people, situations, and energies with remarkable clarity. When she walks into a room, she doesn't rush to be noticed. She listens before she speaks. She watches before she acts. She understands the unspoken before she responds to the spoken. Her strength lies in this ability to observe without judgment and without interrupting the flow of people's emotions. She has learned that the more she listens, the more she learns. And the more she learns, the wiser she becomes. Many people underestimate the power of observation, but she knows it is a form of intelligence that goes beyond words. When she stays silent, she notices the tone behind someone's voice, the hesitation behind someone's smile, the tension behind someone's posture. She can sense sincerity, detect pretension, and recognize hidden pain. She understands that people reveal more through their silence than through their speech. While others focus on words, she focuses on meaning. While others hear what is said, she pays attention to what is not said. A silent woman watches patterns, how people behave, how they treat others, how they react under pressure, how they handle disagreements, how they show love, how they show anger, how they show their true selves. She does not jump to conclusions because she knows that every person carries a story, a struggle, or a scar. She studies these stories quietly. She learns what drives people, what scares them, what inspires them, and what wounds them. Her silence becomes her source of understanding. She observes not only people, but also life itself. She notices things others overlook, the beauty in small moments, the lessons in challenges, the message hidden in failures, the opportunities disguised as setbacks. She sees life as a teacher, and she approaches every experience with curiosity instead of judgment. When something goes wrong, she doesn't react impulsively. She steps back and observes what the situation is trying to teach her. She knows that staying silent in moments of confusion gives her the clarity She needs to move forward gracefully. Her observational nature also protects her. She can sense danger before it arrives, manipulation before it unfolds, insincerity before it becomes a wound. She watches people's actions more than their words because she knows actions reveal truth. Words can be decorated, rehearsed, or manipulated, but behavior speaks from the soul. She trusts behavior, she trusts energy, she trusts consistency. And because she notices everything, she rarely finds herself blindsided. Some people mistake her silence for unawareness, but what they don't realize is that she sees more than she speaks about. She may not comment on everything she notices, but that does not mean she is blind to it. In fact, her silence allows her to observe without being observed. She becomes a quiet witness to life's truths, while others, in their loudness, reveal themselves more than they intend to. A silent woman observes her own emotions with the same depth. She listens to her intuition, pays attention to her inner voice, and understands her own patterns. She knows when something feels right and when something feels wrong. She watches her reactions, her triggers, her desires, and her fears. She studies herself the same way she studies the world around her. This self-awareness becomes her anchor. It helps her make healthier choices, set stronger boundaries, and protect her inner peace. Her silence also gives her patience in conversations. Instead of interrupting, she listens fully. Instead of arguing, she understands perspectives. Instead of projecting her own ideas, she allows space for others to express themselves. People often feel deeply seen and understood by her because her attention is genuine. She listens to understand, not to respond. And in a world where everyone wants to be heard, but few want to listen, her presence becomes comforting and rare. She observes life at a deeper level because she values depth over noise. She understands that wisdom grows in silence, clarity grows in reflection, and perspective grows in observation. She doesn't rush to share her thoughts because she prefers to refine them through understanding. She speaks only when her words can add value, healing, or truth. And that restraint gives her words power when she finally chooses to speak. A silent woman is never truly silent. Her mind is active, her heart is perceptive, and her intuition is sharp. She is constantly learning, processing, and understanding life. She carries the kind of awareness that cannot be taught, only lived. And because she observes so deeply, she lives consciously and intentionally. She sees life through a lens of understanding rather than reaction. Her silence is not emptiness, it is insight. It is the space in which she gathers wisdom. It is the quiet in which she hears truth. It is the stillness in which she sees clearly. And that is why a silent woman becomes someone whose presence feels meaningful, calming, and powerful, because she is always watching, always learning, always growing, even when she speaks nothing at all. A silent woman responds, she doesn't react. This simple distinction may seem small, but it reveals a profound level of emotional intelligence. A reaction is immediate, impulsive, and often uncontrolled. A response is thoughtful, calm, and intentional. The difference between the two is the difference between chaos and clarity, between regret and wisdom, between being led by emotion and being guided by awareness. A silent woman chooses awareness. She has learned, often through experience and pain, that reacting in the heat of the moment rarely leads to anything positive. Reactions burst out when the mind is clouded and the heart is unsettled. They come from fear, anger, insecurity, or frustration. They spill out before the mind has time to filter, before the heart has time to settle. And more often than not, they leave behind damage, hurtful words, broken trust, unnecessary conflict. A silent woman understands this deeply. This is why she creates space between what happens to her and how she chooses to respond. She pauses. She breathes. She steps back. That pause is her power. In that moment of stillness, she regains control over her emotions. Instead of letting anger control her words, she lets clarity guide them. Instead of allowing fear to dictate her choices, she lets wisdom shape them. Instead of being swept away by the situation, she centers herself and chooses her direction. That moment, often unseen by others, is where her strength shines the brightest. Her silence during conflict doesn't mean she is ignoring the situation. It means she is processing it. She is reflecting, understanding, and evaluating. She is asking herself questions like, what is the truth behind this? What is the best outcome here? What is worth my energy? What is the lesson? That internal conversation gives her the emotional clarity others often lack. And because she takes time to understand the situation fully, her response becomes grounded and meaningful. Responding instead of reacting also protects her relationships. She knows that once a hurtful word is spoken, it cannot be taken back. Once a bridge is burned, rebuilding it is difficult. She treasures peace and values the people in her life, so she doesn't allow temporary emotions to cause permanent damage. She chooses grace over impulsiveness, understanding over aggression, and communication over conflict. This emotional discipline makes her someone people trust, respect, and feel safe with. A silent woman also understands that not every situation even deserves a response. Some people provoke not because they want understanding, but because they want drama. Some people argue not to resolve, but to win. Some people speak not to communicate, but to belittle. She recognizes these patterns quickly, and instead of reacting, she withdraws her energy. Instead of engaging, she chooses silence. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She refuses to feed negativity with more negativity. Her silence becomes a boundary. A reaction draws her into the chaos. A response allows her to rise above it. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. She knows that maturity is when you understand you do not have to attend every argument you're invited to. She doesn't let others control her inner world by provoking her outer actions. She chooses peace even when others choose conflict. Her ability to respond instead of react also comes from a deep connection with herself. She spends time understanding her emotions, where they come from, why they rise, and how they influence her. She knows her own triggers, her weaknesses, her strengths, and her deepest sensitivities. Because she knows herself, she controls herself. And because she controls herself, no one else can control her. That is her quiet strength. She is guided by her intuition, not by impulsive emotion. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She knows when to step forward and when to step away. She knows when something needs attention and when it needs distance. This wisdom doesn't come overnight. It grows through reflection, through mistakes, through healing, and through self-awareness. Her silence is the space where that wisdom grows. People often mistake her calmness for indifference. They think she doesn't feel deeply. But the truth is, she feels everything intensely. She simply refuses to let those feelings overpower her. Her emotions do not control her actions, they inform them. She understands that emotional maturity is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to navigate it with grace. When she finally does respond, her words carry weight. They are thoughtful, honest, and grounded. People listen because she speaks only when she has something meaningful to say. Her responses bring clarity instead of confusion, solutions instead of problems, peace instead of conflict. Her voice becomes powerful not because it is loud, but because it is purposeful. Her presence itself becomes calming. In moments when others panic, she remains steady. In moments when others react aggressively, she responds with understanding. In moments when others lose control, she becomes the anchor. She shows people that strength is not measured by how loud you shout, but by how well you stay composed. Responding instead of reacting becomes her way of life. It shapes her relationships, her mindset, her decisions, and her identity. It allows her to move through life with dignity, self-respect, and emotional freedom. It keeps her grounded in a world full of triggers. It protects her from regret. It helps her rise above negativity. It turns her silence into wisdom and her calmness into quiet power. A silent woman doesn't react. She responds. And that is what makes her unshakable. A silent woman does not rely on loud words, dramatic expressions, or constant explanations to show who she is. Her actions speak louder than anything she could ever say. She knows that character is not proven through speeches. It is proven through consistent behavior, through the choices she makes every single day, and through the way she treats the world around her. While others spend time talking about what they intend to do, she invests her energy in doing it. Her silence becomes the backdrop against which her actions shine even brighter. She has learned that words can be deceptive. People promise things they cannot fulfill, apologize without sincerity, swear loyalty they do not intend to keep. Words are easy, effortless, and often empty, but actions require commitment. They reveal truth. They show who a person truly is. This is why she chooses to let her behavior define her. She does not tell people she cares, she shows it. She does not insist she is strong, she demonstrates it through her resilience. She does not declare her values, she lives by them quietly but consistently. Her strength lies in this authenticity. She behaves the same whether someone is watching or not. She treats others with respect, regardless of their status. She carries herself with dignity even when no one praises her for it. There is no hypocrisy in her nature, no performance in her kindness, no pretense in her silence. She does what's right because that is who she is, not because she seeks applause or validation. Her actions are pure, steady, and sincere. A silent woman also understands that people observe more than they admit. Even those who underestimate her watch how she handles life. They notice the way she listens carefully, the way she solves problems without unnecessary noise, the way she stays composed when tested. They see how she does not complain even when she struggles, how she supports others without announcing it, how she endures challenges without broadcasting her pain. She becomes an example without trying to be one. Her quiet actions create impact. Someone may learn patience from her calmness, kindness from her compassion, strength from her endurance. Without speaking a word, she influences the energy of the entire room. Her presence becomes powerful because it is genuine. She does not demand respect, she earns it. She does not ask for trust, she receives it. She does not force anyone to see her worth. Her actions reveal it clearly over time. She understands that consistency is more important than perfection. Anyone can be kind once, strong once, honest once. But to live these qualities every day requires depth of character. And she has that depth. Her commitment to her principles makes her reliable. People know she means what she does, not just what she says. They learn that her silence is not emptiness. It is intention. It is discipline. It is clarity. When she gives her word, she follows through. When she promises something, she takes it seriously. When she chooses someone, she stands by them. Her actions reflect her heart, and her heart reflects her values. This makes her trustworthy. People feel safe around someone who doesn't use words to manipulate or exaggerate. Her honesty is reflected in her actions, and that honesty becomes her strength. A silent woman also understands that the world does not always appreciate loud declarations. People are tired of empty speeches, tired of false promises, tired of dramatic gestures without real commitment. That is why her quiet strength becomes refreshing. She is different. She is genuine. She is grounded. She doesn't waste time convincing people of her intentions. She proves them with her behavior. Even in moments of conflict, her actions carry meaning. She may not shout or argue, but she shows through her calmness that she refuses to lose her dignity. She may not express her hurt verbally, but she shows through distance that she will not tolerate disrespect. She may not expose someone's wrongdoing, but she shows through her withdrawal that she recognizes the truth. Her silence becomes a mirror that reveals who people truly are. She also leads by example, whether at home, work, or in relationships. She shows what responsibility looks like. She shows what empathy looks like. She shows what self-control looks like. Her leadership is not loud, but it is deeply influential. The people around her learn from her not because she lectures them, but because her actions inspire them. Her behavior teaches lessons that words never could. Even in her personal growth, it is her actions that speak. She doesn't announce her healing, she simply becomes healthier. She doesn't boast about her spiritual journey, she simply becomes more grounded. She doesn't declare her independence, she simply becomes more self-reliant. Every transformation happens quietly, yet visibly. People notice the change without her having to explain it. A silent woman's actions are powerful because they come from alignment. Her thoughts, values, emotions, and behaviors are connected. There is no gap between who she is on the inside and who she shows to the world. This alignment gives her inner peace. She does not carry the burden of pretending. She does not wear masks. She is simply herself, authentically, quietly, and wholeheartedly. And the more she acts with integrity, the more her silence becomes meaningful. People may forget what she said, but they remember how she made them feel. They remember the moments she showed up, the times she stood strong, the kindness she offered, the boundaries she held. Her actions leave a trail behind her, one of strength, grace, and truth. A silent woman doesn't need to announce her power. She lives it. She embodies it. She walks with it. Her actions are her voice, and that voice is louder, clearer, and more honest than any words she could ever speak.